Chris Burke from IRT, you're transporting the horses to London tonight. How long have you been planning this process?
Oh, good question. I think Brett Mace probably made contact with me 18 months to 2 years ago to try and get an indication of what would be involved, because obviously we need to prepare all the squad, not just the horses that end up going, because you're not sure of the team. So yeah, probably about 18 months to 2 years.
So that's a long journey. What does the process involve?
Look, the first thing we need to work out is to make sure that the horses meet the import protocol for London, so the actual health certification that they need to be able to go into there. And there's two parts to that. One's what the government require, and then the second part is what the FEI require for an FEI competition such as the Olympics. So we have to make sure that the blood tests and the flu vaccinations meet both of those requirements. So it's not overly complicated for England, but certainly it's something you need to look at in advance, because the flu vaccinations themselves are about a 6-week process.
And so it's all come down to today. What's happening today, and then what are we expecting to happen tonight?
Yeah, sure. So basically now that the teams come down here to Melbourne, so they've had their final inspection by the quarantine officer this morning. The paperwork's getting finalised as we speak now, and then once we know that the aircraft is on time tonight, we'll be making the timings for the horses to get to the airport, so they're not there longer than they need to be. They'll get there leave here probably about 2 hours before the flight. Then they'll depart Melbourne at around about 11 p.m, and then they'll fly through Singapore, where there's a short stop of a couple of hours, and then another stop in Sharjah, which is in the Middle East, and then through to London Heathrow. Well, they'll get there on Thursday afternoon, around about 5 p.m. on Thursday afternoon. So look, from the stables to when they get to their stables in the UK, it's probably going to be about a 30-hour process.
And what measures do you have in place on the plane to assist the horses while they're travelling?
Yeah, so look, probably the most important thing often when the horse is travelling is try not to disturb them too much. The riders will be there to sort of take care of the horse's individual needs, but we've also got on board the flight Dennis Goulding, the vet, to attend to them if he has any concerns about lack of fluid intake or if they've got a temperature or something like that. And then also on board is one of our flying grooms who's been flying many years for us, and he'll be there to, I guess, give a bit more advice specific to the air stables they travel in case we need to make any changes there, any problems with certification along the way, and also just experience of flying literally weekly with horses to try and stop some of the things before they occur.
How much feed goes on the plane with the horses?
Yeah, look, typically we only try and feed the horses sort of hay and things like that rather than hard grains and feeds, because we don't want to increase any risk of colic during the flight. So look, probably on this flight we'd have around about 20 to 40 litres per horse of water, and then also probably a bale of hay each. And if we need anything else along the way, we can have it delivered out to the airport, but typically we try and just keep it to that.
And what's the most difficult part of the journey for the horses?
Look, I think probably the recovery afterwards is the hardest bit. Once you're out at the airport, there can be flashing lights and noises and heavy engineering type equipment like the loader that gets them onto the plane. So certainly you hope that they stay settled during that process, or certainly once they get on board they settle down pretty quick. During the flight itself, it's probably takeoff and landings. As a passenger yourself, you're sort of most alert during those times to see what's happening, and the horses are no different. And then look, the key to the horses though is once they get to the other end, the first 48 hours after they've arrived are going to give you a pretty clear indication of how they have travelled and how they're going to go in the weeks after that.